Hi everyone, welcome to Not Suppressing This, where we invite you to take care of your emotions, especially if you've been holding back on them, with awareness and healing so that you could show up for yourself and others in the most authentic way. I'm your host, Corie Chu, Reiki Master Teacher, Intuitive Energy Healer, and Personal Development Coach. So here we are, not suppressing this. Hey guys, how are you? I hope you've been really well. So next month I am turning another year wiser. And let's just call it that. And I'm joking. Turning another year older and wiser, hopefully. And I was just thinking, what would my 40-something-year-old self want to tell my younger self? And one of the themes that came up very strongly was around productivity. And I thought about that a lot. Where did that come from? Is that something that I truly believe in, that I harnessed and wanted to apply to all aspects of my life? Was it a value that I was taught when I was really young? Because I remember how much my dad loved getting things done very quickly and efficiently, and he was really full of pride when he did get things done really well and quickly and efficiently. And I didn't see that so much from my mom, but now that I have observed her as an adult, I do see it, and she's a lot more subtle about it. But anyway, I was thinking, where did I get that idea from? Or was it something I was born innately with? And I realized, no, actually, it was definitely something I grew up with, whether it be from my parents or the environment, because I was born in Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong for about 3 to 4 years when I was really young, and then I went back to Hong Kong. I came back to Hong Kong when I was 13, and I stayed until I was 17. And during those years, those were really formative young adult years, right? And I just really loved seeing how, I guess I was always really proud, even as a child, even though I didn't quite understand it at the time, how awesome it was that things were so close together and people were just moving so fast. You can't leisurely walk in Hong Kong. Well, especially not back in the day. Now you can. But back in the day, efficiency was everything. Service quality was bare minimal. We sacrificed service for efficiency. Not to say that everyone was rude, but it was interesting. And if anyone grew up in Hong Kong or knew Hong Kong in the 80s, 90s, it was a really interesting place to be. And I think people who grew up probably in big metropolitan cities like New York, Chicago, or maybe even London and other big cities, they could really resonate with this. But Hong Kong, oh my God, I always described it as a city on steroids. It was so crazy. And there was no real, excuse me, thank you. You say it, but you just say it, I don't know, to get attention from someone. Instead of saying, hey, can you do this? It's oh, excuse me, can you do this? But literally, it was implied with the same mannerism. And yeah, I think easily I picked that culture up. The productivity and efficiency themes, I really felt so prideful of that when I was young. I loved doing things really quickly and efficiently. I loved having 3 jobs when I was in college and getting from one place to another quickly and efficiently on time and showing up and getting things done. I loved not really having proper meals because I was just running from point to point. And it's not that I didn't love proper meals. I really would have loved a sit-down meal sometimes. But other than that, it was just okay, let's just go. And I think that was also really typical for anyone who's, let's say been to university or started out in the workforce, and you just had to get things done and be somewhere and just ate whatever you could on the go. But yeah, I really loved getting things done, wanted to be hardworking and show that I was hardworking, that I did fit the stereotypical Asian criteria of being diligent. It sounds so ridiculous as I'm saying it right now. And yeah, just getting things done accurately and show that I'm reliable and trustworthy and that I'm able to anticipate other people's needs, and that ultimately also shows my worth. It proves my worth. And I wanted to show that I had the integrity to be there for a team and work hard, be there first and be like one of the last to leave and stay up until like odd hours at night or wake up early in the morning to be somewhere and to do something. And I know it sounds demented, especially now in this time in life, but I genuinely loved squeezing every last bit of energy I had left in me and dedicating it towards work. It made me feel so proud and so super dedicated to the cause. And yes, there was definitely a superhero moment there. But what ended up happening was that I realized it took a huge toll on my body, as it would to anyone. The high stress triggered hormonal imbalance. I dealt with PCOS and a thyroid disorder, Hashimoto's. And so, while I was very productive work wise and thriving, I was taxing myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and with my relationships, in my relationships with my loved ones. And now in my 40s, I started thinking about this when I was in my 30s, but now I can definitely say confidently in my 40s, how the hell does the math work out? It doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense, yet I did it and I didn't know better. And I know that there's so many people who still love living according to their calendar and 15, 30-minute increments, or if you're really luxurious, 60-minute increments. But how is that really working out for you, for us? And, how often do you feel burnt out? How many times have you been through the burnout cycle and taken some time to rest and then get ready to do it all over again? And how many more times can you do it, right? And I don't know, it's just like if I could have told my younger self, and if I listened as my younger self and really stopped to understand what was at play and what I was risking, which was my health, was it still worth it? Like, did the math make sense at that point? And I think my younger self would have probably been like, yeah, it still makes sense. It's okay. I can take care of my body later. No big deal. I'll just take it slower later. I'll go to seek therapy or, get acupuncture, get on Chinese medicine or whatever. I'll deal with it later. I didn't really understand the cost of later. I genuinely thought that there would be room for later, for there to be improvement in my health later. But what I didn't realize is sometimes when you do what you do and make these sacrifices at a younger age, you can't make up for it later. It just doesn't work. Certain parts of our body just don't function that way, or have died in a certain way, or have rebirth in a different way, and it just doesn't perform the same. And yeah, part of me wished I knew, wow, didn't really have to put that much stress on myself or on my body. I didn't have to stay up so many nights awake, stressing about a problem, or not sleeping because I knew I had to wake up and get somewhere really early, or not sleeping because I had to get something done until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, or whenever it was done. Waking up at 6, if that, 7, if that, and doing it all over again. And sure, it wasn't constant all the time. There were parts of the year where it wouldn't be as busy. But even so, did I really relax? Not really. Often I was just catching up on the other parts of my life, whether it be going to the gym or eating better, eating well, cooking better, meal prepping, whatever it was. It was just, there was always something to catch up on. And now in my 40s, I realize there is no such thing. There's no amount of catching up that could equate this equation. It doesn't work. I always felt like balance. What balance? What does balance mean? When I was younger, I definitely didn't really get it. And everything can be done in moderation, eating in moderation, blah, blah, blah. I genuinely didn't understand it. But it wasn't until like my 30s I started taking things a lot more seriously. And now in my early 40s, 40 turning 41, I'm like, okay, there I can catch up on other bits when I have downtime. But how many times do I have to do this to myself too? Because then I'm always waiting for some downtime to deal with something else. And then I might just get really zoned into that cycle. And then that's another cycle of productivity that shows up in a different way, that creeps up in a different way, that we may not define it as productivity, but it is in a way. And I was wondering, how do we just stop that? How do we not live that way anymore? How can we sort of manage all aspects better at once instead of focusing on being productive at work for this amount of time? And then when there's downtime on the weekend, catching up on errands or catching up with this and that. And yes, it's definitely about how we prioritize and how we can manage things so that they're all somehow equally showing up at a decent level around the same time. Or what I was thinking about is, how about we redefine busyness? Because often we use the word busy as a badge of honor or as an excuse. And sometimes it's just easier to say that, hey, we're busy right now, without giving someone a whole spiel about why we can't make it to this and that. But when we say the word busy too much, we can really get caught up into it subconsciously. And even if we didn't truly believe we were busy, I think when we say that word too much, when we apply it too much, it becomes real. It starts becoming real. And in a really weird, twisted way, faking it becomes making it really applies here. Not really being busy and being fake busy or pseudo busy becomes real busy. And we interpret it as real busyness. And then we can really get easily caught up in that as well. So I was just thinking, how do we use the word busyness or busy a little bit more sparingly, but also in a way that is true to its nature and authentic to ourselves and our schedules? I was thinking the word work. Yes, I think that qualifies for using the word busy when it's really busy. And running errands, also another one that can be categorized as busy, right? Going to the gym, don't count that as busy because it's elective and there's an element of self-care, and that's really needed and necessary as well. I think COVID showed us that going to the gym and taking care of ourselves is super important. It gives us balance that is much needed. And I also feel like some people feel ashamed of using the word self-care or the phrase self-care during the week, like they shouldn't have self-care practices during the week and it should only be saved for the weekends, or else they would seem like they're not busy enough. And if they're not busy enough, they're not doing enough, they're not proving their worth, they're not making enough money, they're not, I don't know, whatever it is that is driving people to use the word busy. So I'm going to use self-care, elective self-care, for going to the gym. And same with cooking meals, taking baths and showers, journaling, meditating. And then there's family time. I guess in a way you could call it self-care for those who see it that way, or else I'm just calling it enriching quality time, which adds to self-care, right? Showering, tucking in the kids, also quality time. Yes, it could be seen as a chore. And yes, it's not always fun, but when we think about how we're never going to get that same moment again or that same opportunity again for long, then we can start seeing how scarce and important it is and can be. Playing with your pets, walking your dog, again, it could be seen as a chore, as an errand, but really it's also quality time, because how long do our pets really live? Taking care of a sick or loved one, it is busy. It can get really busy. It can get very exhausting and burn you out, but it's also quality time. So it really depends, right, on how we go into that situation, whether we are going in showing up with our heart, even if we don't have as much energy as we wish we could every single day to tend to a sick loved one. But yeah, it's a choice we can make, and if we have the privilege and luxury, perhaps being able to take shifts with people can also help us manage our probability of burning out and how we show up, how we are present with that person who may not have as much time left on earth. And then there's just the word, whatever is left that you define busyness. I invite you to look at that and see if it really is busy. Or is there another word for that? Because I genuinely feel that the more clear we are with the term busy, the more clear we are with how we genuinely invest our time and energy, our effort, and our intentions, being clear with our intentions for each thing or person we show up for others, for ourselves. And I think that could allow us to feel more present and whole when we do show up for the next 15-minute increment or 30-minute increment slot of time that we've dedicated ourselves to something. So anyway, I hope that helps and that I'm not seemingly like a 40-year-old auntie giving life advice. That's not my intention, but it's really like, wow, could redefining busyness help us? I don't know. You tell me. Hope it helps. Hope you have a good rest of your week ahead, and to unbusying busyness with awareness. We've reached the end of today's episode, and I hope it's helped you suppress a little less today. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you're hearing, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. And if you'd like to get in touch, please visit CorieChew.com or DM me on Instagram at CorieChewHealing. Bye for now.